Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Action Network podcast. I'm your host and Action Audio Director, Matt Mitchell. Today, we'll be discussing my favorite event of the entire calendar year. We're going to talk all things betting for the Nathan's Hot Dog Eating Contest, taking place, as always, on beautiful Coney Island on Independence Day, this Friday, July 4th. Joining me to do this once again is my colleague, action predictive analyst, and multi-time qualifier for this very event, Nick Giffen. Dr. Nick, welcome back to the show, and please remind our esteemed audience who you picked last year at this event.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. It's good to be back doing this again. We've waited a whole year, almost a full calendar year for this. And in that calendar year, 1 year ago, I picked Pat Bertoletti to win in the Joey Chestnut-less event, right? He didn't compete last year. I took Pat Bertoletti on this podcast at double-digit odds. I think it was 11-1 to win. And hey, he ended up eating 58 hot dogs and buns, besting his competition. Second place was Esper at 53. So a 5-dog margin over the field for Pat Bertoletti.
So no surprise, 16-time Nathan's Hot Dog Contest champion Joey Chestnut is the favorite, returning to the event, as you mentioned, after a 1-year hiatus where he performed a special one-man event for Netflix in lieu of Coney Island, allowing Nick here to cash that 11-1 outright on Bertoletti. Nick and I were actually fortunate enough to sit down with Joey Jaws Chestnut for an exclusive interview that we released yesterday. And you can hear that right here on this podcast feed. It was a delight. We love Joey. All the best to Joey this week and always. Now, okay, let's get the party started, Nick. As a reminder, the event's sponsor, Nathan's Famous, founded on Coney Island in 1916. Their first official hot dog contest was in 1967, won by 400-pound truck driver Walter Paul, who ate a relatively paltry 17 hot dogs in 1 hour. Times have changed, Nick, but we'll start with the women's competition led by Miki Sudo, who captured her record-setting 10th mustard belt as the champion last year. Nick, what have you got on the women's side?
Yeah, on the women's side, it is pretty much a one-horse race. It's Miki Sudo and Miki Sudo alone. She has a stellar record in this competition, only not winning in the last few years because of a pregnancy, missing the competition, and that's where Michelle Lesko ended up winning that year. But last year, Miki Sudo set the women's record with 51 hot dogs and buns. So, right up there in the 50s with Bertoletti, with James Esper, with Webb. So a very stellar number. So I think it's far and away Miki Sudo as the favorite. She's minus 2,500 wherever you can find women's odds. So pretty tough to bet that market because, it's not fun laying minus 2,500 odds, but you can't really bet anybody else. But what we can do is we can look at some of these secondary competitors. We did talk about Michelle Lesko, but also, we can look at Domenica D Street Eats, as she is called. She is from the Seattle, Washington area. She qualified with 23 and a half hot dogs and buns, which is exactly how many the runner-up last year, Michelle Lesko, had, 23 and a half. So there is a matchup between those two women at minus 115 each way. Michelle Lesko has been trending down in her past 4 competitions. She has eaten less in the Nathan's Hot Dog Contest than the previous year. And with 23 and a half, if that downward trend continues, she could be under that 23 and a half number that Domenica D just qualified with. So I think that's a very fair line at minus 115 each way in terms of the head-to-head. But both women also have 25 and a half as their total for the line over at ESPN Bet. So, I think that's a spot where maybe we could look to go under 25 and a half, but there's always the iron sharpens iron. And when they know they're fighting for second place, it's going to be pretty tough. So honestly, I just think the women's competition this year is a pure pass. That said, I do have an angle on Miki Sudo, but it'll be against the guys.
Oh, I love it. That's a good tease. I was going to use iron sharpens iron later, but you beat me to it. That is something to consider in a lot of these matchups and even a lot of these totals. Guys have said repeatedly, it is like any competition. When you're in a horse race and you are neck and neck, you can draw something even deeper from yourself, and you'll see those totals inflate. We saw that for years with Kobayashi and Joey Chestnut themselves at the highest tier, but it happens in all sorts of tiers. People want to finish, if they have a chance for third, they have a chance for second. If they're not going to win it outright, you'll still see them kind of sprinting to the finish. Okay. Women's competition out of the way. It's time to look to the men's competition. The field, of course, led by 16-time champion and prohibitive favorite Joey Chestnut, who is anywhere from minus 1350 to minus 2500 against the field. Nick, I'm going to get out of the way. I know you've dove extremely deep. You've gotten ketchup and mustard all over yourself, figuratively speaking, in the mines here. Please tell us your breakdown of the men's competition.
Sure. Well, first of all, honestly, again, I don't hate Joey Chestnut at minus 1350 at FanDuel. I think that is a very fine number to bet him at, honestly. So if you're one of those bettors that likes to just take whatever value you can get, I don't hate it. I did some analysis that shows at worst he should be minus 2,000 in terms of my analysis, my research on this. So I don't hate it. I don't think it's a bet I'm recommending simply because most people probably don't want to make that kind of an investment on those odds, but I don't mind that. But the real competition, the real battle is going to be for second place. Once again, between Patrick Bertoletti, between Jeffrey Esper, between James Webb and Nick Wary. Those are the big four in terms of the next tier below Joey Chestnut. And I did a lot of analysis on this. I scraped all the data over the past year since last year's Nathan's Hot Dog Contest for all the different things, whether it's strawberry shortcake, bologna, bagels, hotcakes, pork rolls. These guys have all competed in a bunch of competitions throughout the year. And anytime at least three of those four got together, I tracked the data and I was able to compile head-to-head results between them. And from that, I was able to use, some math, some geometric means, some log5 type data, all sorts of things, that we use in the analytics world to strength of schedule adjustments. I'm serious. So I did the math here. And if you go over to DraftKings, they have winner without Joey Chestnut. So essentially second place. Who is going to win the competition if you remove Joey Chestnut's result? And I have value on Jeffrey Esper at plus 275. I have his fair odds right around plus 225. So multiple books have this. DraftKings has the best price at plus 275. So if you want to shop around, anything longer than plus 225, I have as value on Jeffrey Esper. I think we're getting a discount here because in his qualifier, he only ate 43 hot dogs and buns, which is his lowest result in many years. But he also didn't have competition in his qualifier. He finished 20 hot dogs ahead. That's kind of the whole iron sharpens iron. Well, there was no other iron there. So he didn't really need to push himself that hard. So I think we're getting a bit of a discount on Esper. If we look in terms of just head-to-head results versus these other guys, Esper went 14-8. Whereas the only other person with a positive record over the past year in head-to-heads is Pat Bertoletti, who was 15-3. So, I think this is a spot where Bertoletti rightly is the favorite in the non-Chestnut market, but he's a little too short at plus 135 or even at plus 150. I have plus 165 as fair on Bertoletti. So I think we got to go to that next one, which for me is Jeffrey Esper. So that's my first bet that I'm making in this market. Curious your thoughts on a market like that.
Now, I'm a little concerned. Jeffrey Esper, nearly 50 years old now. He is a school teacher outside of Boston. Looks like the kind of guy that would beat the shit out of you in the parking lot of that school if you crossed him. And I'm into that kind of behavior, to be clear. Any concern about backing a competitor of that age?
No, not really. Again, I was tracking all the different results and, just last month, June 14th. So, just even a couple weeks ago, Jeffrey Esper ate 22 1/3 pounds of strawberry shortcake in 8 minutes. That was more than 3 pounds ahead of James Webb, more than 4 pounds ahead of Nick Wary. Now, Bertoletti did not compete in that one, so that was a non-Bertoletti market as well. But Jeffrey Esper, just a few weeks ago, dominated his competition in strawberry shortcake eating. So if we want to talk 50 years old, sounds like he still has it at age 50.
God, I love these guys. Okay, what else you got, Nick?
So I mentioned in a little tease that I was going to bring in Miki Sudo into the men's competition, and that's because a lot of books are setting head-to-head matchups for her against some of the guys. And for me, Miki Sudo versus Nick Wary is the one I am going to attack at DraftKings, especially. I was able to find this one. The dog line on this one is Miki Sudo +1.5. Nick Wary -1.5, and it's -115 each way. But there's also the money line, I guess, if you will. So the dog line was the spread, and then there's the money line. Miki Sudo's +130 on the money line. I like both of those. Again, tracking their results over the past year since last year's Nathan's Hot Dog competition, Miki Sudo is 5 wins and 5 losses versus Nick Wary in all competitions. That means 50-50 rate. But when I also weigh it by their totals and do a geometric mean of that, we get that Miki Sudo is slightly, just ever so slightly worse than Nick Wary here. But I'm talking she's 98.85% of the eater that Nick Wary is. So if you take his dog line, which is 47.5 as his over under, and then multiply that by 98.85%, you get that Miki Sudo should be around 46.9, 47 hot dogs, which is less than that 1.5. Additionally, a lot of those competitions, only one of those 10 competitions was hot dogs, and that was last year's Nathan's Hot Dog Contest. If we weigh the hot dog contest heavier, all of a sudden that gets even closer, and really it's like 47.5 versus 47.3 as the expectation. So I think when you're getting +130 on something that's essentially a coin flip, you got to take it. Really, she should probably be +105. And then when you're getting a +1.5 dog spread, I think you got to take that as well at -115. So either Miki Sudo line that you want to take, whether it's the spread or the money line against Nick Wary, I like that one.
Intergender geometric mean competitive eating breakdowns. You're not going to hear this shit anywhere else on the internet. I am enthralled by this argument. Miki Sudo is an absolute demon at this competition. She takes incredible pride in her record-setting streak here. Like you said, interrupted only by a year where she was giving birth. So hat tip to her. I will also point out weather this Friday on Coney Island, hot and very sunny. We heard directly from the horse's mouth, Joey Chestnut, that he prefers warmer, hotter weather because of its effect, its loosening effect on the muscles, and that colder or windier weather is much harder as you tighten up. And that's a huge challenge when you're trying to do something as insane as eat 60 plus hot dogs. So I will note that some people will discuss the weather as being a detriment in the heat and humidity. A lot of the competitors view that as a positive, especially for an event that at the end of the day only lasts a few minutes. It's not like they're out there for 6 hours eating hot dogs. Nick, anything else you've got on the field here?
Yeah, real quick, just to that, it's going to be about the same conditions as last year. Last year, the humidity was forecast more at like 70, 75%, but it ended up only being around 45, 50% during the actual time of the event. And the one thing I did find is humidity does tend to negatively impact, not heat. I didn't find anything on heat, but humidity does negatively impact. But because now it's forecast to be around that same 45, 50% this year, I think we can see relative totals similar to last year. Very similar conditions. The only other factor is it could be pretty windy. And I don't really have an idea on how that impacts things. Probably not much. But I would assume we're going to see similar totals to last year. You get that our iron sharpens iron theory. I think we're going to have a heck of a battle for second place in the men's competition. One other little nugget, one other little maybe kind of hidden value, and I'm kind of debating whether I should bet this or not, is to bet any other eater in the second place market, the non-Joey Chestnut market, because Ricardo Corbucci from Brazil got the international bye, and he competed in this event last year, and he ate 43 hot dogs and buns, which is only 3.75 fewer than Nick Wary, who's in that big four. Well, Nick Wary's 12-1. You can get any other eater at 18-1 at Caesar Sportsbook. Don't think I love it, but I don't hate it. I have seen Ricardo Corbucci eat 49 in 10 minutes in a trial run last year. So he has his own YouTube channel. He looks pretty strong. So just somebody to keep an eye on as a potential dark horse in that non-Joey Chestnut market. But really my favorite bets are Jeffrey Esper in the non-Joey Chestnut market at plus 275 and Mickey Sudo in matchups versus Nick Wary, because I have them pretty much a coin flip.
Now, speaking of international eaters, last year my pick was over the total for Australian eater James Webb, which did hit. I was interested in some James Webb matchups, but wanted to hear your point of view. Of course, he's matched up most frequently with Esper, who you're hot to trot on. So I have lost my interest in James Webb in that category, but it does remind me, teaser for our interview with Joey Chestnut. Joey referred to James Webb as an Australian shark because of his exceptional ability to eat chicken wings. He has beaten Joey soundly several times in chicken wing eating competitions, and Joey credits that to exceptional form that James has in his competitions in that specific competition. And so I would caution people who are enamored with a specific eater's performance outside of hot dogs in this very specific high-profile event. That is all I will say about that. I am very excited to tell all of Nick's picks here. Nick, any words of wisdom for our audience for their Independence Day?
I think you should definitely be putting on the competition and sweating it with us, because it's going to be awesome. To your point about James Webb as well, I definitely like him. My Esper bet is more of an upside bet, because his average, his median, his average, the number of times he's gone over under the 50.5 line, he's been under more than he's been over that 50.5 for Jeffrey Esper. So I don't hate if you want an under, but then this is kind of an upside play, because we're saying, what is his upside here? And he does have enough upside to win this second place market. So I'd rather get, if he's going to clear 50.5, he's a good shot of taking down second place. So I'd rather get plus 275 on that than minus 115 on him to clear 50.5, right? It's not exactly perfectly comparable, but it's a long change in odds there. But I do like Webb. I think he's got a very strong shot to finish second as well. In terms of betting value for second place, he's just slightly minus EV, but he's the least minus EV between him, Bertoletti, and Nick Wary in terms of the non-Esper bets there for that second place market. So definitely don't mind James Webb. But everybody needs to enjoy their July 4th, watch the hot dog competition, and let's see if we can hit another plus money bet here 2 years in a row.
And I will point out, you should shop around for this and every betting event always. And a good example of that is you can find the total hot dogs eaten market for Wary and Mickey Sudo at an identical 46.5 minus 112 to the over at FanDuel right now. But you could get Sudo over Wary on the money line at DraftKings at plus 130. Like that's as great. If you saw that in an NFL game, you would immediately take advantage of a comparable market in that regard. So Always shop around for the best number. I wish all of you out there a very happy and fun and safe and profitable Independence Day. I will be on the West Coast, so I can't wait to make a room full of older relatives wake up and turn on ESPN at 7:45 Pacific time in the morning on Friday to watch the women's competition. I'm sure that'll be a real crowd pleaser for a bunch of old Irish Catholics. All right, on behalf of Nick Giffen, I'm Matt Mitchell. Enjoy all of the fun this Independence Day. Nathan's famous hot dog eating contest from Coney Island, And we'll see you back here next time on the Action Network podcast.